Hello, YouTube, and welcome to Reading Reddit. And we have two great stories for you today. And I call it Understanding the Assignment. Our first one is about a baby name, and our second one is about a little bit of justice, a little bit of creative justice. So here we go for our first story. Am I the asshole for tricking my sister in law into stealing our baby name? Updated. So I, 33 female, have been married to my husband Kevin for almost 5 years. We have a 3-year-old daughter, and I'm apparently pregnant with twins, male and female. My brother-in-law Terrence, 38, has been married to his wife Jess, 39, female, for 7 years. Jess and I are total opposites. Jess is an extrovert, she's kind of loud, boisterous, and some would even say abrasive. I'm an introvert. I'm not quite quiet or shy, but I am reserved. I'm also very observant. The first time I met Jess, I told Kevin we would be like oil and water. We have never been overtly hostile to one another, but also have never gone out of our way to bond. Unfortunately, Terry and Jess had fertility issues for several years before finally having their son a couple of weeks ago. Prior to this, Jess was very odd towards us when I was pregnant with our daughter. The best way to describe it is hot and cold. One minute she pretended like she didn't care while we were talking about it at a family gathering. The next she was volunteering to throw the baby shower. I give her a firm no to that. We both assumed the behavior was because of the fertility issues and didn't think too much of it. But the strangest thing she did was almost demand to know what we were naming our daughter before we announced it. She asked us constantly about after our gender reveal and got visibly annoyed when we just laughed it off and said, "It's a secret." We couldn't understand why the hell she cared as much as she was not expecting at this time. Regardless, we didn't share the name with anyone. When our daughter was born and we finally announced, Jess was kind of obsessed with it. She just kept going on and on about how beautiful and unique the name was. To this day, she comments about how different it is. The name we chose is a common Welsh name, and it wouldn't be all that different except for the fact that we're African American. I've always gravitated towards names with different regions and found and fell in love with a name years ago and never shared it with anyone prior to Kevin. Fast forward to both of us being pregnant at the same time. Jess's odd behavior continues towards me, but this time it was more blatant. Snarky comments under the guise of jokes about how big I was going to get with two babies and that my baby would never snap back or body would never snap back like it did after our daughter. She even accused us of getting pregnant on purpose after she announced her own pregnancy, even though the whole family knew we were actively trying, and at the time of her announcement, I was already a few weeks along and didn't know. One thing about me, introvert or not, I'm no pushover and will stand up for myself. But I chose to ignore Jess because I knew that would get to her a lot more than confronting her, since she seems to thrive off drama. Jess was obviously much further along than we are, however. We did get our gender reveal prior to Jess giving birth. Almost right on cue, the baby name interrogation started again. Because they decided not to find out the gender of their baby in advance, Jess kept hounding us for both of the names that we had already picked out. But again, we declined to answer. After days of this, I got annoyed and asked Kevin if he thought the reason for her insistence was so that she could use the name first, since she was due first. He kind of chuckled until he realized I was serious, and he didn't think so, but said anything was possible. I said, let's test it. We were due to host our father-in-law's birthday at our house a couple of weeks later, and I decided to leave something in the unfinished nursery with a girl and boy name on it to see if Jess went snooping. Because Kevin thought it was silly, he said he would give me $20 if she did it. So I went onto some site where you can custom order name wall decals and put in the names Aria Rose and Sebastian Ali. These are names that we like but aren't remotely close to what we chose. This will also be our last pregnancy, so even if Jess did use them, we wouldn't care. I didn't complete the order. I got to the final page, then printed it out and hid it in a dresser drawer in the nursery. The party goes off, but because we were busy hosting, we never noticed if Jessica disappeared for any extended period of time. So when I went into the nursery the next morning, nothing was out of place, and the order sheet was still in the exact location. So we just kind of both went, "Welp," and forgot about it. I did, however, notice that Jess never asked us about baby names again. Then Jess gives birth. We went to the hospital to give our congrats. We go in and we see the baby. I asked what his name was, and man, I cannot properly explain the shit-eating grin that came over Jess's face as she says, "Sebastian Ali." I mean, she was really proud of herself, and honestly, it's the most vindictive I have ever seen her look in the years that I've known her. But instead of reacting the way that she was expecting, I put on a performance like I had just graduated from Juilliard. "Oh, that's a great name. He's so cute. Oh, look at his little face. I just love him so much. Welcome to the world, Sebastian. Auntie is gonna spoil you rotten." I mean, I am laying it on thick without an ounce of bother. The range of emotions on Jess's face went from shock to confusion to rage in a span of maybe 17 seconds. Meanwhile, my husband is holding in the laugh of the century. We later say our goodbyes, and he gives me a 20 in the elevator while almost crying laughing. All I could say was, "Like I thought." This was 2 weeks ago, and we haven't seen them since because we wanted to give them time to settle in with their new baby. I've heard from my mother-in-law that Jess doesn't seem as thrilled about motherhood as she thought she would be, considering how long it took them to conceive, but said it might just be baby blues. Obviously, I think she's disappointed that her petty move didn't have the desired effect on us. I did share with my sister. I did share this with my sister, and she laughed initially, but she did say it was kind of an asshole move, so am I the asshole? Nope, Savvy Maverick says, not the asshole. No one told her to go snooping. She thought she had taken something important away from you and was proud of it. You clearly pegged her correctly. It could have been worse. You could have had a tragedy name, and that child will be stuck with it. Oh yeah, I don't like the child free Kimberly's loves like to make fun of the like Kaylee with the Leigh names, and you know what? I think that while it is something a little different, it still is like ah. Okay, second comment here, where OP responds, not the asshole. That's hilarious. Put sister-in-law on an information diet about anything having to do with your pregnancy and kids. Sister-in-law probably isn't done trying to cause drama. OP responded, I'm more concerned about this now. Before her pregnancy, her and brother-in-law lived in another state for years. That's why it was so easy for me to ignore her. They moved here back in May, and it has become harder to dodge her. Not the asshole, you wondered if this was her plan. If you confronted her about your suspicions, you could have looked crazy and spiteful. Setting up a test to see if you were correct or not wasn't wrong. She may have never looked in the drawer. She may have started a betting pool on your baby's names and or would have been upset when she didn't win it because she thought she had insider information. What you did was non-confrontational and absolutely brilliant. It showed you who she is. You didn't slander her to the family or make a big deal about it. You gathered intel that would guide you down the road while dealing with the crazy. No one else has to know aside from you and your husband and the internet. I'm so grateful you shared this on the internet. OP comes back with an update 12 days later, and let me tell you, this one threw me for a loop. Hey y'all, thanks for the responses to my original post. The comments were funnier than I was expecting, and kept me and my husband entertained. I tried to respond to as many as I could before they got away from me. I've gotten some messages asking for an update, but nothing major has really happened. Jess didn't break into my house to push me down the steps and steal my kid. I did get some additional info, though, that I can pass along. But before that, I want to give a little bit of context about me and Jess's relationship, and to explain why I did what I did. Feel free to skip past it. To put it plainly, Jess and I have been in a one-sided beef since the day Kevin and I started dating. I give her zero thoughts if I didn't have to, and yet I live rent-free in her head. Based on snide remarks she's made over the years, the reason is jealousy. Kevin and I only dated for a year before we got engaged. We were then married within 6 months of that engagement. We had an actual wedding ceremony with a reception, went on a honeymoon, bought a house in the burbs, and got pregnant in rapid succession. Both of us have good careers and are financially stable. Mother-in-law, father-in-law, and grandmother-in-law all adore me. There is a churchy reason behind this, but I'll spare you. Jess and Terrence did not really have a similar path. They've been off and on since they were 1920, with Terrence never really wanting to commit. During one of their breaks, Terrence got a friend with benefits pregnant and now has an 11-year-old son. This has always been a sore subject with Jess due to her fertility struggles, fibroids. And when they finally got back together, she pressed him for marriage until he relented and gave her a shut-up ring. They went to the courthouse on a random Tuesday, then had dinner at Red Lobster afterwards and went back to work the next day. Not trying to be shady, just relaying facts. They now live in a 2-bedroom apartment in a high cost of living city where they work while working hourly jobs. They aren't minimum wage or everything, but they constantly need overtime to make ends meet. This has led her to resent me over the years. She thinks everything has come easily to me and has let that fester. There was a time a few years ago at a gathering when she got drunk and got into an argument with Terrence. I think her attitude that night stemmed from seeing me with my infant daughter. To hurt him, she blurted out that she married the wrong brother. Everyone was shocked. I wasn't. She just said the quiet part out loud and revealed what I already knew. So I poked her a little and said, "Really, which one? That's kind of gross as they were both minors when you met them." Context, Kevin and Terrence also have a younger brother, Tim, 28. Boy, did she fly off the handle after that. To this day, she claims to have no memory of that night. Of course she doesn't. Anyway, now I know there is a new reason why she resents me. So now on to the update after the context. The update. Like I said, nothing has really happened since I last posted. I haven't seen or heard from Jess since that day in the hospital. Terrence also hasn't communicated much with Kevin other than sports talk. However, my mother-in-law has been with them almost every day. She came over yesterday to go over some last-minute things for our baby shower that we are having the Sunday after Halloween. I am not due to late January, but with the holidays and twins tending to arrive early, we just wanted to get it out of the way. After all, after finalizing things, I asked mother-in-law how Terrence and Jess were doing. She sighed and leaned back in her chair and said, "Girl, it's a mess." She goes on this long word vomit I will have to summarize. Basically, they've been at it since before the baby was born. When they were discussing names, Jess's list only consisted of girl names. When Terrence asked what if it's a boy, Jess was adamant that it wouldn't be, but if it was, they would like to use Terrence Jr. This caused an argument because Terrence's 11-year-old is not named after him, and it would be a petty move to name the second son a junior. Unbeknownst to me, Jess was having severe anxiety over not the name, but the gender of their baby. So much so that she refused to find out early on because she was afraid of disappointment and she wanted to enjoy her pregnancy believing she was having a girl. She wanted a girl. I mean, really wanted a girl. This goes back to mother-in-law, in my opinion. Mother-in-law is the only girl of 4 brothers. She has 3 boys. 2 of her 3 boys, Tim has a 6-year-old, have boys. Then my daughter came along. Mother-in-law actually broke down in tears at our gender reveal. Since the day she was born, mother-in-law has become a little obsessed with her. And not in a just no mother-in-law way. She knows and respects boundaries, but the whole family is aware that my daughter is mother-in-law's favorite person in the world. I think Jess thought that by having a girl, she would get the same attention and affection from mother-in-law as she has never been Jess's biggest fan. When that didn't happen, something short-circuited in her head. Mother-in-law's words, not mine. Before we arrived at the hospital that day, they were still fighting over a name. So I guess when I showed up, she just blurted it out. While I think it was to hurt me, it seems like it was also because she didn't allow herself to think of anything else because she didn't want a boy. I said in the first post how I noticed her expression. However, I completely failed to notice Terrence's. He was pissed. Jess had never mentioned the name to him prior, and he had no clue where it even came from. He also hated it. He refused to sign off on that, and they left the hospital without a name. So in our state, you have 7 days from birth to register a name. She eventually told Terrace to pick a name himself that she didn't care anymore, so he did. So he swapped out Sebastian for Jordan, but kept Ali. Yes, after Michael and Muhammad. Oh yeah, okay. According to mother-in-law, since they've been home, Jess has shut down emotionally. She's been doing all the motherly things, but there's a disconnect there. Mother-in-law said she finally broke down to her a few nights ago that she'll likely never have a daughter due to her age and what it took to get pregnant in the first place. Mother-in-law never got the daughter that she wanted either. I also feel bad hearing that because regardless of how I feel about her as a person, I do have a heart, and I would never want to punch down on her if she's in the throes of PPD. So Jess hasn't admitted to snooping, so I haven't admitted to setting her up. A few of the comments said I should never confess, but I think I will at some point. Mainly because I don't care. I'm more than willing to burn a bridge while I'm still standing on it. But now simply is not the time. So that's it. That's the lackluster update. Jess is invited to my baby shower, so I might be back in a couple of weeks, depending on how that shakes out. So right away, my concern is for the young boy, for Jordan, because I've heard a lot of stories of parents really, really wanting a boy or a girl, and then when it was the opposite, they treated that child poorly. I really am concerned for this kiddo, and I'm going to share this from Savvy Maverick and OP, and then I'll move on to the next story. So it says, well, damn, that's not where I saw this going. Might not have been as crazy as you say, but definitely quite the revelation. I feel for Jess to a point, but the minute she's made the comment about my husband, all gloves would have been off. Your restraint is commendable. I hope she gets counseling so that little boy doesn't have to grow up knowing that his mother didn't want him. P.S. Absolutely don't listen to the person who said to go out of your way to be nice to her. This site is full of willing doormats, and I'm actually quite sick of it. And then OP responds, I'm mostly worried about my nephew in all of this, but I really do think mother-in-law will step up and help. I don't know if I can or what that would even look like. We've never been close, and likely never will. The best thing for me is to actually just leave her be. Every mama deserves a village, and had she shown me the slightest bit of kindness in all these years, I would have been a part of that. But here we are. So I really do not think that I wouldn't say anything about setting her up either, because there's just no point in admitting it, because she would have to admit that she snooped. And people like that aren't going to do that. So this one is understanding the assignment again. So this is story 2, and this is one of my favorite fuck around and find outs. Am I the asshole for letting my kids loot my brother's house to prove a point? My brother and his family came for a visit last month. My kids and I play with Lego, and we have fun leaving little dioramas around my house. Just silly little stuff like a fight between Iron Man and Darth Vader on the Loot Llama. It's just our way of leaving Easter eggs around the house. My nephew really liked them and decided to take a few home. When we noticed they were missing, I asked my brother to bring them back. He said that it was just kids being kids, and that he would bring them back the next time we saw each other. I saw him for coffee and reminded him beforehand that I wanted all our stuff back. He forgot to bring the toys. Okay, game on. We went over to his place for barbecue. I told my kids that unless all of our stuff was returned to us when we got there, literally anything in the house was fair game. Like the godless barbarians they are, they went to town. When we left, I don't think there were any remotes, small electronics, or beer mugs left at his house. I actually had to sneak the dog back into the house before we left. I started getting calls on our way home. I ignored them. When we got home, I returned his calls. He said a bunch of stuff was missing from his house, and I said I would check with the kids. He said, I freaking well know what happened and that he wanted his stuff back. I said I would box it up and return it the next time we saw each other, as long as we got our Lego back. He was at my house with the Lego later that evening. He said even he had even accidentally included stuff that wasn't ours. I returned it and his stuff. I told him that this is how we would be dealing with his kid in the future. He was pissed off that he had to make a special trip to return my stuff. My parents think that there is a huge difference between an 8-year-old taking a Lego minifigures and a couple of teenagers pillaging their uncle's house. Am I the asshole? Absolutely not. He played stupid games. He got a stupid prize. Okay, here it is. That is, until the great pillaging, the brother had no intent of returning the stuff. It was going to be the I forgot a few more times, until it was, little Billy is really attached to those toys, and teenagers shouldn't be playing with Legos. This was a good, proportionate response. Another one says, you're the asshole in the most endearing, passive-aggressive, sibling rivalry sort of way. Shots are fired now, and I'd be on the lookout for your brother. Wonder what your wives have to say about this. And then here are a couple of comments where OP is just like, nope. I like this OP. So he says, this one says, soft, you're the asshole. This was petty behavior on your part. This is not how adults resolve issues with each other. This is how children behave. OP responded, yeah, I can't argue with facts. I am childish. And then here's the last one. You're absolutely the ass here. This reads like a screaming, he did it first. Grow up. OP response, never. So, this is, I agree with what he did, because there are some people who you just can't. He wasn't going to give it. He was not going to give it back. He wasn't going to give them back their stuff. So I guess they had to make a trade. I love this for him. Brother found out. So talk to you soon, YouTube. You have a great one, and see you next week.